Hi everybody, I know it's been a few months since I've shot a video and doing a movie review. I've got, counting this video, I got a couple that I want to do tonight, and I want to first start off with talking about why it's been a couple of months. If you're not friends with me over on my main channel, you wouldn't know this, but, and I'm going to try to explain this without being too graphic, because I explain it all at length in the other channel. I'm not going to rehash all the gory details and stuff, but for the last, I'd say, almost 2 months, my husband has been in the hospital, and he's getting ready to go into rehab right now. And he's been very bad sick. He had to have surgery on his right foot. He had 4 surgeries on his right foot, and he's not learned to walk yet. He's getting to the point where they've got him in a ski boot, ski boot looking thing, and he's sitting on the edge of the bed, and he's trying to stand up and whatever. But, he's not there yet. So, that's what's been going on. And, as I've been talking on the other channel, I have a GoFundMe page. If you want to know most of the details about it, I will, in both this video and the following video, I'm going to include the link for the GoFundMe page, and it explains it there a lot more than what I'm going to do here. But with that said, now I'm going to get into the movie review. But I just first wanted to start this all off with me explaining what's going on. Okay, well, I saw this, this first movie review, I want to first start off by saying I saw this particular movie back in the day when it was in the theater and I was a teenager. And of course, this is telling my age, but I just recently rewatched it on Tubi, Tubi, on my television. Well, it's called She's Out of Control. I saw that, like I said, I saw that years ago when it was in the theater as a teenager. And I was about the same age as the girl. And the dad is played by Tony Danza. And it's got Wallace Shawn in it. It's the same guy that kept saying inconceivable in The Princess Bride. In case you're wondering. If you've seen Princess Bride. But anyway, I liked the movie as a teenager just because I related to the teenager. Now watching it as an adult, I find it hilarious because, the girl goes from being, it's like a ugly duckling kind of story. It starts off with the girl being basically, homely looking, and dad takes off and goes on like a vacation or whatever. Leaves the girl with the dad's girlfriend. And the girlfriend kind of gives the daughter a makeover and it basically turns her into a swan. And the whole movie is about, the fact that, okay, the girl, is now a teenager, and, she gets the braces off, and she, starts feeling better about herself. I mean, it's a positive movie. It's a body-positive movie. So, if, you want to watch a body-positive movie with your daughter, this one would be it. And it's just and what's really funny is the dad is basically being a prude. And, the girl's just, hanging out with, all the, she goes from being dorky to being popular and granted her grade slip and whatever, but, it's funny because And this is what I thought was, funny about it, is the fact that the dad is so uptight about, it's like the girl has her own phone line. When I was a teenager, I didn't have my own phone line. We had, the community phone for the whole family. So there was nothing I could say on the phone to anybody without my parents hearing it, So, it is what it is. But, in this movie, like in 16 Candles, the daughter had her own phone line. And what I thought was just hysterical is when the girl goes from being a dork, basically, to being popular, all of a sudden, like, her private line blows up. And then her dad's line that he shared with the other sister starts getting blown up too. And they're like, why are you calling this line? And it's like, the other line's busy. And it's like, I'm like, my one thing, and it's like, I can say this as an adult, I would have loved it if I had been allowed when I was a teenager to have my own line. I don't know who in the world I would have talked to, but, would have been a lot of fun. I mean, it's unlike the girl in the movie. Not to make me sound like I had no friends or whatever as a kid. It's just the difference between me in real life and that girl as a teenager back then. I was out and about on my own anyway, and it's like, I wouldn't have been at home long enough to actually talk on the phone to anybody. I mean, if I was home, it was to do homework during the school year, eat dinner with my parents, and go to bed, basically. I mean, I was busy all year long doing stuff. So, I didn't really, quote unquote, I didn't need, my own private line. I wouldn't have wanted one anyway. Although it would have been awesome if I did. But it is what it is. I'm not worried about it, But yeah, it's like the girl, like they dress her up like really nice, and she starts feeling better about herself, and she has all this, like all these boys start tripping over her, like, they're like, wow, but the dad is like, no, basically, she goes from, like being, like dressing just very conservatively to, like an adult version of a very conservative person to dressing like what was popular for a 14-year-old kid at the time, which I thought was comical. I was like, I would never wear that anyway. When I was a teen, I would never have wore that, But yeah, it was so funny. It was just like the whole thing about, the dad feels like he's losing control of his daughter, and he's, freaking out, and he's trying to set up like all these rules, and it's like, like his life starts falling apart because he feels like he's losing control of his daughter, and it's like, it's what it basically is. It's the female version of Growing Pains, but told from like the dad's perspective of, okay, he had like a little kid, he had 2 daughters, and the one hits puberty, the oldest one hits puberty, becomes a teenager, and starts acting like a teenager. It's how dad handled it. It's just, that was the part that I thought was funny, is how dad handled it. And Wallace Shawn is the dad's therapist, and they get all of this on the radio station that the dad works at. And it's a whole comedy of errors and whatever. It's funny. I mean, I enjoyed watching it the second time just because it's, for one thing, it's the 1980s. And secondly, I've never known of a dad to not feel the way that dad felt in that movie. Because I know my dad, when I hit puberty and like was 13, 14 years old, my dad, my dad was like, who are you? It was like the, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It was like, I went from this little kid to, bam, puberty. I mean, it was, and that was like, and seeing that my dad is now gone, it's like I appreciated it even more, because it's just like the irony of it all. It's like, I know, it's like, seeing little kids grow up. I have a couple of cousins who are much younger than me that, I watched them grow up, and it was weird. Like, I turn around, the next thing I know, they're adults. And I'm like, where'd the time go? I remember you being a 7 or 8 year old little kid, and I really recommend watching the movie, just because I think that whole movie, it's just hilarious. I mean, it is a romantic comedy, but this is the kind of movie that, like, they need to make, where it's like, like some kind of, like, positive family dynamic with, like, a twist, and it's like, I won't ruin the ending, just because, it's one of them things where it's like, you have to watch the movie all the way through, because it's like, I can't explain it, because you have to, like I said, you have to watch the movie. I mean, it is, because, like, the ending, it's like a what? It's like, the way they ended the movie was just the best part of it all. I mean, other than the fact that it was over. But you actually can sit and watch the thing, like, all the way through in one go. You're just like stuff will go wrong, and it's just like, it's almost like the Three Stooges, it's like, and it's just, you're like, oh my God. You're like, oh my God, and as a girl, it's like, my dad never would have acted that way, or, done this or done that like the dad does in the movie. And it's just, and also, part of the thing is, this movie is, a 1980s time capsule, and it's just, it gives you a perspective of, the way people thought back then in the 1980s. And that's the other thing that you need to think of when you watch this movie, is, this, this is what a comedy looked like in the 1980s. Some of these movies that were made back then, you could tell they were actually trying to be funny, or, trying to get a message across, or a combination of the two, In this movie, She's Out of Control with Tony Danza, is one of those where it's a comedy, and it kind of has a message about, parents and kids, like, kids hit puberty, and the parents are like, and it's like, I mean, because it would be true of any decade and any time with any set of parents, it's like, it's like, okay, and that's what I'm getting at. It's like, if you think about it, it's the age-old thing. I mean, like, none of us are, it's the March time, and it's just the dad's reaction to everything is, the best part of it. Especially at the beginning. The beginning is funny, and the ending is even more hilarious, because it's just like, you're like, oh my God. You're like, oh wow. Because it's like, you're like, after everything that's went on, and it's just, it's a whole comedy of errors, and it's funny. But, it does have, I will say this, and I'm not going to ruin the ending, but I will say this, the ending, it has a very good ending to it. And the ending is just randomly funny, and it has a good message to it. But anyway, I'm going to pause here, because I got another movie review I want to do. All right, so I'll be right back.